Excuse me, I'm next in line. Move. Excuse me, I'm next in line. Watch out. Excuse me, I'm next in line. I said move. Excuse me, I'm next in line.
Another episode of Will's Review. I'm your host, Will D, and it's the first episode of the decade, which should sound like, decade, but I don't know. Something about it just kind of feels like last year was like a week ago, because it kind of was. So, not that great. Although the best part of this decade is that Trump is officially the greatest president we've ever had in this decade. So that's something to talk about. But we'll talk a little bit of Trump later. Let's start off with sports. So real quick, the Nets are hanging on to a playoff spot as we get very close to All-Star Weekend. They'll be in 8th place, and the Knicks are second to last, which is actually progress, sadly, because they're just not at the very end anymore. So who knows? All-Star break could change the whole game. Not really. I don't have that much hope in them, but just saying, it's a thing. It's still mathematically possible, I think. And in a hockey, the Islanders bumped down from 2nd to 3rd, and the Rangers and Devils are at the bottom of the division. As a Rangers fan, I can gloat just slightly that they're slightly better than the Devils by a couple of games. So I'll enjoy that. The NFL, the Chiefs are beating the Texans for the opportunity to play the Titans next week, and the Seahawks and Packers will play later this evening to see who plays the 49ers next week. But the big story of the NFL is that the 6 names I mentioned, none of them are the Patriots. So everyone in the league is happy because the Giants stood no chance of getting to the playoffs to stop them. So thank you, Titans, for actually doing something everyone wanted. I think this is probably the first time people are excited for a Super Bowl in a couple of years because they don't have to worry about Tom Brady getting another ring. Yes, it's a beautiful day, especially the year that the Patriots got caught cheating again. There really needs to be an asterisk next to all of their accomplishments, but we know they cheated. But we know they cheated. But we know they cheated. I mean, how many times do you have to get caught cheating before someone actually has to be like, all right, maybe they're not that great? I'd be great too if I could cheat. That's kind of like what cheating's supposed to be for. Donald Trump won the election because somebody cheated for him. I'm just saying, just think about that, right? The Patriots are Donald Trump. See, and that's the other thing, though. That's a good thing. Is it cheating if you don't get caught? Frankly, I would consider that a highly skilled ninja technique. But they keep getting caught. If a team keeps getting caught, you can't tell me that it's a one-time thing. No, this is their playbook, bro. This is what they do. They don't win fairly. They cheat. Period.
That's their 4-3 format?
Yeah, that's their 4-3-4. But then, in sports entertainment news, we have a busy month in wrestling, starting with tonight. There's a pay-per-view NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool. I just feel like these names just get ridiculously longer. Everything NXT UK just feels like that extra UK messes up my entire rhythm. Anywho, they're doing their thing tonight, so I'm going to be going over that next week post-matches. But then we also have the pay-per-view for the Royal Rumble, and right the night before the Royal Rumble, we have the NXT TakeOver kind of Worlds Collide thing that they've been doing, and it'll be UK versus US, which I'm actually really excited for, especially since there's a promise of a 2-belt female champion in that one. But what I don't understand is why, after pretty much dropping 4 pay-per-views in a month, February just has one, and it's just an NXT TakeOver, which, I mean, just an NXT TakeOver. I can't say that. NXT TakeOver was probably the highlight of the wrestling season, but still, why does February only get one? Why are you shortchanging the short months that's already screwed? And it's the one time we get an extra day. Give us something extra. Come on. I want February pay-per-views galore. If January gets it, why you gotta screw over the Aquarius? I feel some type of way about that. So Royal Rumble will be on the 26th. The night before will be Worlds Collide, and tonight is NXT UK TakeOver Blackpool in Blackpool, England. All right. So on that note, we're going to go to our first commercial break. When we come back, there's some news to talk about, some pretty funny stuff too that I got to get to, and tons of movies. So Charles, if you could take us to our first break.
Yeah. C-Ride. Corey guns. Dice game. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We scramble to survive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We gamble to stay alive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We scramble to survive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We gamble to stay alive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. Life is a dice game. A dice game. Exceptional. Dressed to impress. Representable. Nothing less than the best. Commendable. Wow. I'm on a whole different level now. Migrated. Torch from state to state. Still looking for the right woman to settle down. Open up business plans with a quick hand. Stick to the plan. Get rich with the fam. Never run out of luck and get stuck in a sunken place. Deeper than quicksand. I could be anything. The mic I chose. Life is like a dice game. Metaphorically, the dice gets thrown. 4, 5, 6, and then the tricks. The dice is my hope to get rich. So one night I'ma be lounging with my wife on the boat. It's one life to live like a soap. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We scramble to survive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We gamble to stay alive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We scramble to survive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We gamble to stay alive.
Facing a lot of reality checks. If it wasn't prison and jail, then it had to be death. Thinking God daily that I'm not a casualty yet. Singing if it happened to them, then I had to be next. All the jealous, envious, pretend to be brothers. Time is money and some is not as expensive as others. I've been cheated and left for dead from the ones that I needed. I don't bother to tell nobody my problems, I see it. Say they want me to make it, just to make me believe it. They just want to front for the public with drinking you. I don't talk about all the clout and the style that I gave them. I don't talk about all the times they were down and I gave them. I don't talk about when I'm down and I'm out and they double me. I don't talk about when the time I pop out and they love me. I don't talk about all the clubs that I gave them my hustle. I don't talk about all the love that I gave them.
Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We scramble to survive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We gamble to stay alive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We scramble to survive. Life is a dice game. Taking chances. We gamble to stay alive.
Alright, so I'm gonna start off with a weather report. Yeah, right, like who would think I'm talking weather? I don't know. I mean, you have a window, but still. So, in international weather, we have a volcano erupting in the Philippines. It's just smoke and ash, but Volcano Tall is causing 8,000 people to be evacuated and the Manila airport to shut down. They're saying that there's still some activity, so we might get a little bit of lava spewing coming soon. But right now, it's not a Category 5, which is the max. It's a Category 4. So it's just it's giving some warning signals to get the F out. And so they are. So hopefully that won't be too big of a problem if everybody gets to a couple of other islands over. Because, I mean, like the Philippines has, what, over 100 islands? That you can get away somewhere. Go next door to Malaysia or something. Like, you good. There's tons of water too. Like, it's just going down. As long as it's not shooting out rocks at people, we Gucci. Also, on this side of the world, Puerto Rico getting that 6.4 earthquake and a 5.9 aftershock. Now, I don't know how many of you know about the Richter scale, but these are some pretty legit earthquakes. These are some earthquakes that aren't daily California earthquakes. These are some what the hell was that kind of earthquake. And in a country or, kind of sort of a state that still hasn't fully recovered from the last major natural disaster. To put into perspective, this earthquake happened in Puerto Rico, right? There were 17 other countries affected by it. This includes even countries in the outlayer, 2 of which are from my mom's home islands, Montserrat and St. Kitts. So, like, islands that people haven't even heard of, they're so small and out the way, were affected by this earthquake that happened in Puerto Rico. All right, so a lot of people sleeping in cars, buildings destroyed again, electricity out again. And, you know, the U.S., of course, is not doing enough because, well, Trump thinks that Puerto Rico has its own president still. So, you know, his focus is also elsewhere because he's dodging these $8 million bounties on his head right now. So, 80 million, my bad, even worse. You know, he's a Luffy pirate Barry booty kind of money. But yeah, so, you know, my condolences to people out there, my best wishes to the people out there. If you have loved ones out in that region, if they weren't in Puerto Rico, check in because there were 17 other countries also affected by this earthquake. But there is a bright side to all this crappy weather, and it's happening here in New York, where we just had 2 lovely 60-degree days. I mean, despite the rain, it was still warm. Like, who the hell has warm weather in January? Right? Like, what happens? January is known for being the snow month. We're expecting blizzards, and we just had like 20-degree days last week. 60 freaking... I'm mad that Friday is coming for the first time in like ever, because that's going to be the first day of real winter again. I'm mad about a Friday, bro. Like, that's a problem. That's crazy to me. But yeah, so, you know, Mother Nature not really knowing what's going on right now. It's like she's having hot flashes and attacking all over, but giving us some nice weather. You know, we're like that piece of chocolate for her because we're getting rewarded right now. This is a beautiful thing. It's a beautiful thing. So that's my weather report. Yeah, that's crazy stuff happening in the world, but we good. And I know someone's like, you didn't talk about Africa or Europe, so I got you on that too, all right? Africa is hot. And Europe, no one cares, all right, because it's Europe. They deserve whatever they get for what they've done. Okay, moving on. So some really random stuff in the news. So I'm going to start off with one really, really great fact, because this is the first show of 2020. We've learned that the 100 most popular names from boys and girls from the past decade, and my name ranked 5th. So there are still knights all across America because my name is a knight's name. So that's great. I thought my name was getting old. We're with a really weird generation of people. And it's the first name to not really be all that biblical that topped the list. You know, you got your Joseph and your Isaac and your whatever and all those craps, and those are the first 4. But then my name's there. I love it. It's great. So, yeah, there's still Will's 5th most popular name, over 1 million babies in the past 10 years in the U.S. We're still around. I'm sure most of them weren't black, but, you know, I get jobs, so screw you. Then another piece of random news is that Sony, the people who make PlayStation, the people who produce music, the people who deal with a whole bunch of tech and movies and film, are now developing a car. They have a 2.5-ton vehicle that's built with a 5G wireless system. It's not practical, it's a gas guzzler, but all the features with the screens inside and the internet and all that, Sony might have a hit because people don't really care about the practical anymore. Despite having more electro hybrids, you really, I mean, you get a car with 5 TVs. I'd rather pay for the gas and shut up the kids than think about having a car that will keep the kids alive. You know, but, you know, priorities, right? Like, you know, just no headaches on road trips. Because if my brother-in-law and sister had this kind of car, I think my nephew and niece wouldn't care if they're in a car for 4 hours traveling to New York. So I'm just saying, Sony, you're on something here. And if you think I'm lying, notice that most minivans have been putting more and more screens in their stuff, but they don't have 5G yet. Sony's on it because Japan, #1. Then some other local news is that over the last few weeks during the holiday season, a bunch of videos have been popping up on Facebook about people catching possible kidnappers or kidnapping suspects right there on 125th Street, 4, 5, and 6 train station. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, East Harlem ain't playing no games with these people trying to kidnap black women. So shout out to East Harlem. I know Walper ain't here, but I take that train, so East Side repping, like, on it. They catching criminals. The police are just walking up like, what's going on here? We caught this mofo for you. Now just arrest him and get out of here because we don't want you here anymore. That is what I'm talking about right there. People doing their civic duty and protecting other people. I like it. I'm glad Facebook for dropping these photos and people catching them right there. East 125th Street, 456 train. You want to talk about people doing what they need to be doing, don't mess with East Harlem, straight up. They catching more cops, more criminals than the cops right now, so, shout out to y'all. But the big story the last few weeks has been El Presidente messing with Iran through Iraq. So there was this guy who the Iranians look at as a leader, but then the U.S. looks at as a terrorist, and for whatever reason, despite not dropping no evidence like Bush and those WMDs, right? Homeboy says, this terrorist is planning an imminent attack, so we bombed him. And Iran is all like, yo, you killed one of our leaders, so we're going to mourn for a couple of days, then we're going to kill you. Now, here's why I gotta talk about this, because shout out to Iran for really explaining their entire actions that are going to be coming, and also for not attacking civilians, right? So Iran definitely went back to that whole Allah Akbar and death to America and everything we've been hearing from the Taliban for the last 20 so years now, right? About 19 will be 20 next year, right? So this ain't all the same crap, but then they go, but when we say this, bro, like, it's not against you. It's not about that dude who just goes, does his job, goes home, and just wants to be entertained by some mindless TV. And, you ain't that spiritual, but we ain't got beef with you. We have problems with all of your leaders. So they're just saying, death to America means it's death to American leadership, death to the American government, death to Donald Trump. So, all of us who worry about, they're going to attack New York, whatever, they ain't coming for us. DC, look out. Red states, look out, because they coming for you for putting in the a-holes that were cool with bombing their people. And they put an $80 million bounty on Trump's head, right? They let the U.S. soldiers in those days of mourning move where they got to go, and they're still not attacking them heavily. They're really not. And this could be all-out war. Nah, not even that. A couple of retaliatory bombings in strategic areas. They're making precise moves, and they still gave people who were part of the American consulate, stuff like that, like, time to go. Like, they're being very serious about it. They're doing exactly what people expected out of the U.S., but the U.S. wants to call these guys terrorists and savages, right? I got mad respect for the Iranians who are in charge and leading this anti-U.S. movement, because unlike us who just went bombing random places, we've killed more civilians than we have terrorists, in all honesty. And keep it a buck, right? And we're not saying it's the soldiers' fault. The soldiers are just doing what they're ordered to do, so it's not against the soldier, but you have the U.S. government making these poor decisions, and the Iranians, they're making smart moves. So shout out to the Iranian governments for their retaliation not affecting civilians. Now, if the U.S. government is mad at me for saying it, well, F y'all, because y'all did this to yourself. And they'll be like, well, Trump did it without our permission. Bro, y'all been backing this fool for a minute. He was impeached how long ago, and he still has power and whatever. Y'all impeached him, but he found a way to almost start World War III. Meanwhile, out of all things, Twitter's squashing the beef, bro. Both Trump and the Prime Minister of Iran have both been like, yeah, but we don't really want war. So, no war. But we gonna be tit for tat in this. All right, keep it light. As long as it stays on the military basis, I don't care, because the soldiers signed up to fight. I'm not saying I wish soldiers die, but they signed up to fight. They signed up to protect their countries, their freedom. They're not just U.S. soldiers, but the Iranian warriors over there too. So if anyone loses their life, it's the people who are willing to put their life on the line. Right? We have respect on both sides for what y'all doing. You're doing what you think is right for your people. But rather you than me. Okay? That's keeping it a buck. So shout out to y'all who are fighting for your countries and your freedom. I definitely have more favoritism with the U.S. soldiers, but you got to respect the warrior if you're a warrior. So, shout out to them, too, doing what they feel they need to do. Because ain't nobody heard about no imminent attack. Trump still can't even explain himself, and the Democrats in Congress and all over that are calling him out on his BS. They're like, bro, but just tell us what it is. You gotta admit, though Bush, there was no evidence to anything that he said. At least he said it was just like they had weapons. We weren't looking for weapons. We found this guy along the way. We took him out, and then we were looking for these weapons that didn't exist, and we walked up with some oil. Like win-win-win, right? Bush had the balls to stuff up in your face and tell you what it was. You just had the information of an imminent attack. Where, we don't know. What kind of attack, we don't know. You're telling the government, the rest of the government, it's too top secret for them to know. Bro, with all the dumb stuff that come out your mouth, somehow this is the one thing you can't say? Really? Like, they have evidence of people hacking the system for the election, and you outright said they didn't do it. So now that you're saying someone attacked, you can't even come up with a lie on what kind of attack. Hell, bro, if you had even said it was a cyber attack and you killed him, right? Like, he was gonna, that would make way more sense, bro. Way more sense. He was gonna mess up the bank, so we took him out. Give us something, man. Just give him something. And you know I got your back 90% of the time for pissing off the people. Piss off the people. Give them some bull. Let them tell you later it wasn't true, and then you call it fake news. Do what you've been doing. You look like a little wimp, bro. You look like a little wimp right now. You running scared. You know that you made some trouble. You're legit doing the dumb thing you said Obama would do back in 2011, bro. You stepping on your own toes. I can't even have your back on this one, and I like to choose the bad side of things. So, you know, that's on you, kid. But enough about Trump, because, I mean, we could legit talk about all the dumb stuff Trump has done in 3 weeks, let alone 3 hours. But in celebrity news, since we're speaking of dumb stuff, yo, Lil Wayne, I gotta speak to you real quick, bruh. Somebody in your camp is a snitch. So over in the last 3 weeks, FBI, right, feds. Why are feds just randomly looking into Lil Wayne's plane? But they received a tip. And no, it wasn't from 6ix9ine. But they went and heard that there was drugs and weapons, and, well, they found drugs and weapons on Lil Wayne's private plane. But they only searched it because they received a tip. So who the hell was snitching on Lil Wayne? Like, really, what do you not expect to be on Lil Wayne's plane? If I'm sorry, if I'm a Fed walking onto the plane, I'm gonna be like, all right, so we're gonna find some guns, we're gonna find some weed, maybe a little coke, definitely some scissor. But what else we coming here for? Because who the hell is Lil freaking Wayne? Now, no charges were pressed, but it's just kind of like, it's Lil Wayne, bro.
We shocked more if I find donation papers.
Word.
What?
Well, nah, that's true. He actually gives back to his hometown.
Yeah.
He does. So, but like, what else do you expect to find? Like, bro, I'd be more surprised if the weapons were actually registered.
Yeah, that.
I'd be hella surprised if the weapons were registered.
Yeah,
Right? Like, because when we all heard that Chris Brown had cops come up to his place for some weapons, the cops were surprised when he was just like, these are my guns, take my guns, throw them out of a window, like, and they're all registered. Because right after he threw out the guns, he threw out the paperwork and said, leave me alone. And they actually had to leave Chris Brown alone. So if Lil Wayne pulls some mounts like that, I will admit, I will be surprised. But if Chris Brown did it and he's a blood, then Lil Wayne's another blood celebrity. Just saying, to math that up, right? So, Lil Wayne, you need to go into your camp, leave 6ix9ine alone. It's the one thing he didn't tell nobody. And you need to find that snitch. And, you know, if he ends up with some stitches, we all understand why. The cops will probably be on that one, too, because they found the drugs and the weapons on the plane and didn't press charges, bro. I need to get famous just to be able to do shit like that. Sorry, that's crazy, bro. They found a black man caught cold-handed with illegal weapons and drugs, and they didn't touch him. The feds, the actual government. That's a beautiful thing. That is a beautiful thing. I'm not even mad about it. I'm just like, where's my turn hat on that? I don't really use drugs or anything like that, but I mean, just to be able, I want the ability to do that, right? I just want to be able to do that, right?
Call the cops on myself.
I'll be calling and be like, yo, you gonna find this just to be like, and it's here. And then walk away and they don't do nothing about it. Like, that would be a lovely thing to do. I'd probably end up shot with 5 bullets in my back. And then, last but not least, and definitely not least, I've been actually very excited about this one. Semen face masks are now becoming a really popular thing. They're now becoming a really popular thing. I guess the same stuff in stem cells could possibly be found in the semen, but supposedly it makes your skin look more youthful, like every other cream ever, probably because this one is actually babies. But yeah, guys, remember before I told you about the breast cancer reduction? Well, now even if she's a spitter, you have something to bring to her. So, semen face mask for free from your homie down the block. Remember that. It's new skincare, and the dudes are willing to help you out. So, you know, if you really trying to get that smooth skin, don't buy cocoa butter, bro. That costs $6.99 a jar. Just talk to the homie down the block. Take 6 minutes, and he gonna serve you something nice. Straight out of a movie. All across the face. Don't gotta eat nothing. That's only if you want to reduce breast cancer by 2%. On that note, we're going to go to our next commercial break. When we come back, we got movies and fans, and you know the drill. So, Charles, if you could, we'll be right back. We're coming. Best news story, start of 2020.
It's not a song, it's just an anthem. If you ain't come to party, there's no answer. If you ain't come to see us while you dancing, girl, you looking good, what you trying? Now dance for me, yeah. 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 Dance for me, yeah.
Straight out of control, she up and down the hall, baby, move your soul tonight. That body glitter gold, just like the bottles we hold. The clientele of bad shit, so much money don't go. Tonight I'm all for self, big bags and ass, big splits and glass. I'm trying to have a good time, still about that ass. Such to the curb, bikini under her fur, diamonds on her heel, and she's looking like a purse. I'm like a meal, the whole crowd full of thirst. All they want is a feel, but all she wants is the worst. Just to numb that mind, then she come back shining. And she's called this rhyme, it's all a part of the purpose. Yeah, the party never ends, but at least we can pretend that her friends she can't depend on. Because they too wildly to lean on. And that white comes out when they ring on. Hit into they theme song.
It's an anthem. If you ain't come to party, there's no answer. If you ain't come to see us while you dancing, girl, you looking good, what you trying? Now dance for me, yeah. 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 My mama just had a heart attack. I think smoking cigs started that. Plus drinking on top of that. Plus a dumb son, yeah, that's the start of that. Plus on the flip side, hell, I've been drinking too. Now I'm asking her to stop like she gon' tell the truth. She say she's working on it, yeah, mom working too. I probably started this shit tomorrow, but what else is new? I'm such a hypocrite. I hate to be alone with myself. I be lying in the mirror like I'm wrong with myself. Deception of my reflection. With a confession, description of how I live. Somebody give me a minute. It's just me in here. Who the hell I'm talking to? Maybe it's my conscience. Monster under the bed and the one inside of the closet. All of them kind of violent. All of them kind of silent. They never saying nothing. This is me inside a war room pressing them pants. If you ain't come to party, there's no answer. If you ain't come to see us while we dancing, girl, you looking good, what you trying? Now dance for me, yeah. 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 Dance for me, yeah.
still laughing about that facial nonsense, though. Like, it's a real thing, though. I swear to God, I'm not making this up. This is not Donald Trump fake news. Look it up. It is a new trend. You know, something porn stars known for years, but the science has finally caught up, and white women doing it now. You know, once white women doing it, it's a trend. Right? Yoga pants. Yoga didn't become famous, although India's been millions and billions of Indians been doing it for years, until a white woman started doing that in LA. Now then it became something that became worldwide and a trend. So white women figured out about getting cum on the face, not just the blondes from the porn industry. It's a big thing. It's a big thing. If you looking to, I'm telling you, save yourself $6.99. Find Jerome upstairs, and you good. You Gucci. Now, before we get to all the movies, though, real quick, Daniel Bryan versus Kofi Kingston, where Kofi Kingston becomes the first black man to win the championship at a WrestleMania, voted the best match of the year. And also, if you're a Rick and Morty fan, there will be a new series from one of the creators of Rick and Morty called Gloop World, which, if anyone who watches Rick and Morty knows, sounds like it could be a very interesting side story to the original show. Will be on a new app and website called Quibi, Q-U-I-B-I. So look, if I find out more information, I'll tell you. But look for that. Quibi, probably a .com. There was no official thing in the report, but Gloop World. So just look out for that. I'm gonna keep my eyes open for that too. Let's do our fans of the week real quick. I think the first one we have should be Kiki. So the first fan of the week of this decade is Kiki Niyoshi, who is our station videographer. And second is a guy who goes by, if you know me, you know me. Hopefully, if you like tattoos, you know him, because he does some pretty good work. So check him out. I think he just started working at a new official spot, but you can always contact him. And if you know me, you know me. And see if you can hook up with him. I like his art. I'm thinking about getting a tattoo from him myself, to be honest with you. Next, on the Facebook side, we have Sharon Scott, who was probably the biggest winner of Fan of the Week in 2019, and it still surprised me that probably our biggest fan of this particular show and webpage is someone from New Zealand. Go All Blacks. But then a new guy, he's a relatively new fan, Le King, although the S means that it should probably be plural because he's Spanish, not French. So that confused me when I looked at that, but like, you the king of the week, so then, congrats to you. Then thank you for being very active online. He was actually like all over the place. Our top fans of 2019, though, they were fans of stuff from this show, from XY, from Geekdom World, Chiefs Martinez, and Edward Scott. So a special shout out to you. Your pictures will not be here because you didn't win this week, but you definitely got to post online. And then you guys, it's been about 3 weeks, so we have a couple different pictures that I want to share with you. The best picture of each week from the Instagram. So, you see the content that you're missing, because believe me, by the time you actually go and follow Proni Futurashuko, you may not be able to find these photos. So I post that much. This will be the year that we reach 20,000 posts, by the way, but probably by the end of the month. So first is Tommy trying to, show the difference between what it looks like when you think you're going to summon the Dragon Zord and what it actually looks like. Like, pretty much that was his face every time underneath the mask when he was in hype filming, because he wasn't just putting it to his face. He definitely was like, woo, to be silly, because all the outtakes of Power Rangers, if you actually watch those, these guys, I don't know how they've ever filmed a show, because it seemed like they were just making fun of each other for the entire day. I don't know when they got the script. It's probably why the show was so cheesy and lovable. But yeah, those guys loved each other back then. For Billy was the outcast because he was gay. I mean, that's just the honest truth of it. If you didn't know, now you know. And I'm not even trying to be funny about it. Like he's gone on record talking about how the producers and the cast members, not the actual lead actors, but a lot of the people in the cast and crew would make fun of him. It wasn't cool to be gay in the 90s, except for when it was like when Wesley Snipes pretended to be one in that movie, right? Because, I mean, who's going to mess with Wesley Snipes? The next one is when old people try to dress in young fashion. Yeah. So, I think Charles posted about people pulling up their pants. This guy at least has pants that kind of sort of reach the, I guess that's, what are they, knickerbockers? Fashionable, shiny knickerbockers. But I love the fact that this was Homer Simpson, because who would you think not work anything fashionable? Homer Simpson for sure. So yeah, so old people's dress for your age, please. Especially those of y'all that have bellies. And this isn't just the women. It's all of y'all with bellies. Just don't just flash them, please. Yeah, just don't accentuate the belly. It's okay to have the belly. Don't accentuate the belly. All right. And last but not least, there's a lot in this picture I want to talk about with the skinny and the thickness. First off, can I just say the Dragon Queen looks really good thick? Right? I can't even be mad. I know it's supposed to be, she got fat because she became your wife and she got fat. But this girl can put on weight. I would not care. That is a beautiful female when she gets big. Then the guy, how do you misspell the word wrong? How? That's one of my big pet peeves. If you're gonna cuss out somebody, and then when you cuss them out, you misspell stuff, you look like Boo Boo the Fool. And I'm glad somebody called him out on it, because the joke wasn't really all that funny, because you still damn, she just went from looking good to looking good and thick. That's not even sloppy fat. That's just that's a full figure woman. I like that. But then the misspelling and just people, if you really gonna come at somebody's neck, one, make it make sense. Two, please spell correctly. Even if you use broken English spelling, if you use cuz and you spell it C-U-Z instead of C-U-X, I would appreciate it. Don't put the S. It's cuss, and it makes stuff confusing. Just spell properly. Even your incorrect English. Please. Just the little things that matter sometimes. Just, please. But yeah, we got a ton of movies. So we're gonna start with what was in theaters. So we're gonna do this in chronological order. And the first one is Ip Man 4. That hit theaters. That's still in theaters. I'm gonna give this movie a 4 out of 5. Personally, as an American audience, it's probably more of a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a must-watch, especially if you're a martial arts fan. But why I give it the 4 was that I saw it opening day. It was the first time I went to go see a foreign film here in the U.S. where I had trouble getting seats because I didn't realize how popular Ip Man was with the Chinese audience. And of course, you would assume it was a big movie, but it was really popular. There was a guy in the seat next to me who was sitting at the edge of his seat, and the opening credits were what we're playing, right? That's how hyped up he was for this movie. There were points in the movie that I think as an American audience we wouldn't get too hyped up about or whatever. Definitely meaningful and special. There were multiple people in the audience, various age groups, all Asian, crying. At certain moments, I didn't really realize how much this franchise had more Asian audiences. I knew it was a big action flick, and that's what, but they really get caught in the story because Ip Man's story is all about Chinese unity. And what I appreciate about the movie is that, especially this particular movie, is that by the end of it, although Ip Man is a story of Chinese unity and their fight against oppressive groups that try to take over the country, especially if you're someone who grew up in Hong Kong, you gotta know the story like the back of your hands. But by the end of this movie, Ip Man's point to fight against racism wasn't just for the Chinese, it was for every minority group that's feeling oppressed, and he fought for everyone. So as an African American, you can appreciate that message, that story. But the Chinese audience, man, in the theater, these guys were, there were several times these guys were in tears. Bawling in tears. In an action movie, bro. I give it the extra bit because you could be in the theater with the guys and feel all of their emotions. And it's not a perfect movie, don't get me wrong. It's definitely still a kung fu flick, but it's a good story. It's great action, and I think it's a great way to wrap up the Ip Man franchise, even down to like the end of the movie. I feel that the movie was actually perfect to wrap up this franchise. So I mean, anything with a great conclusion for me is hard to find, and I thought it was an excellent film. It's just that there's some obvious American movie flaws that I think the American audience is gonna be like, oh yeah, a film movie. This is not something that's gonna be winning an Oscar, even for best foreign film, but it's definitely something that everyone can watch. So I definitely hope you see that. We also have The Grudge. They did a reboot of The Grudge. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think it's a good horror movie. I think it's a solid horror movie. The ending was a perfect ending. So that gives me that. Man, that's what makes it must watch for me. If you are watching this movie, this is a horror movie. Yes, it's very, the music leads you up to the big scares. The ghosts are doing their thing. The solution at the end of this movie to beating the monster seems so simple. I was very mad until the very ending of the movie made everything feel right. Shout out to this movie for actually paying homage to the Japanese original. The whole movie starts off in Japan. There's even kanji in the opening titles. Like, so now, for people who didn't know the first time, yeah, they stole this from the Japanese. This movie at least was like, yeah, we're taking this from Japan. So shout out to them for doing that, and shout out for an awesome ending. Everything in between, there's nothing particularly unusually bad about it. It's a very typical horror movie. But an excellent ending and a great opening. You gotta see it. But last is the Like a Boss, the Tiffany Haddish. I gotta say, I never really expected Tiffany Haddish to do a chick flick, but this is a chick flick. This is definitely a chick flick. Not to say there aren't some laughs. This is something that, I gotta give this a 3 out of 5. I'm not gonna tell people this is a must-watch. I'm especially not gonna tell men this is a must-watch. But men, if you want some brownie points, you can take your own to this. There are some laughable moments in there, but you will be rolling your eyes about 85% of this movie. Every girl in the theater, rolling, dying, loving. Dudes, a couple of good Snickers in there, bro. That's it. Boom, out the way. Now, let's hit up the small screen movie screen. And we have, the first thing I want to talk about is a movie called MFKZ. Try pronouncing that one without cursing. But this is a really weird animated story about some guys from California of sorts coming into their power. The main character's coming into his power in an alien takeover Earth. The art for this, the trailer for this is actually cooler than the entire movie, to be honest with you. But the movie comes together, it's a solid film, a lot of great action. I give it a 3.5 out of 5. I think there's some pretty obvious flaws to the movie and pacing, but I can't help but say I was entertained watching it. It's on Netflix now, you gotta catch it. I think it's from 2017 originally. Then there's a new series, Messiah. That might have been a better movie than it was, or is, a series. I can't believe I watched an entire season of that crap. I'm going to give it a 2.5 out of 5 because it does have its moments, but I definitely had trouble staying awake during this show. Boom. Next, The Degenerates came back with a season 2. The Degenerates is a bunch of these, not necessarily household name, but relatively known stand-up comics who are very crude and don't care about how you feel because they shouldn't. They're comedians. Anywho, I give this a 4 out of 5, and it's only a 4 out of 5 because out of the 6 comics, there was one comic who definitely was skippable if you're under the age of 40. His name is Robert Kelly. If you are under 40, just skip him. He tries. There's a little bit of ha-ha, but no. Everybody else is funny. Period. Moving on. Tremors, A Cold Day in Hell. So I don't know if anybody realized. Yeah. So Tremors has been around since literally 1990. It took 5 years for a sequel. Then another 6-7 years for a third. And now they've been popping them out about every 3 or 4 years after that. So Tremors 6 finally came out. And this cult classic franchise has had a leading male that's been pretty consistent the last 2-3 movies. And has kind of switched over to Jamie Kennedy. If you were wondering where he went, well, he's done B-level sci-fi movies. Now, despite me saying that, I can't help but give this movie a 3 out of 5. There's something about this that is so bad, it's watchable. It's not a 3.5 where I'm telling you to watch it, but it's a 3 where I'm saying if you're watching it, you will be entertained. It's very corny, cheesy, simple, straightforward, but it's funny. It's like a Jay and Silent Bob kind of movie, but with underground monsters who can also fly. Yeah, I know, weird. And the flying ones they call ass blasters. Yeah, exactly. Right. Like, so there you go. Another thing that popped up, it was Dracula. They've done a remake from a book franchise. It is essentially 3 2-hour movies that tell the life and span of Dracula. It's a bit different. It's a bit weird. But honestly, I got to give it a 4 out of 5. I was thoroughly entertained. I will say there's some obvious flaws, but the reason why it's a 4 and not a 3.5 is that I really think most people wouldn't enjoy it. I think it's pretty storytelling. It will, especially the second episode, because there's supposedly there are 3 episodes, but it's really 2 hours, so it's a freaking movie. The second one was actually really well written, really well done, and the surprising part is that everything that happens in it takes place on a boat. When you can turn a boat into a 2-hour like psychological thriller, some blood and all that, I gotta give credit where credit is due. That was really well done. I would have loved for this to be longer than 3 episodes, and yet somehow in the 3 episodes, I think in the 6 hours essentially, they told a really good story. Since technically it's a show, I doubt it with the way that it ended season 2, but it's a story of Dracula. You know how many stories of Dracula you can tell? Let's just do it. I would watch it again. Starts at different points in the timeline, perhaps, or perhaps a new Dracula or leading vampire. But like, yeah, I'm with it. They also put up Medical Police, which is a spinoff of Children's Hospital on Adult Swim. If you like Adult Swim, classic Adult Swim kind of humor, your Sleep Lab 2020s, but with live action, it's for you. It's a 3 out of 5. I can't tell people to watch it, but you can watch it. A big disappointment, Doom Annihilation. After a big budget Doom, to get this movie, nah. Bring back The Rock and his team and them doing their thing on a big budget. These monsters were corny as hell. Very generic too. The alien world was kind of cool, and I only got it for all of but maybe 5 minutes. This was a very disappointing movie. I had my hopes way too high. I should give it a 2 out of 5 because that's what it deserves, but I was so mad, I'm giving it a 1 out of 5. That was garbage. Straight garbage. I was pissed watching that. I was expecting so much more. Yeah, that was a bomb. That was crap, bro. Like, I'm mad about it. Like, I'm mad I wasted my time watching that because I really thought it was going to be good. Really did. They were so bad, except for, like, the one monster. Even at the end, the alien monsters were looking kind of cool. It's like, what is this all movie long? Garbage. Ronnie Chang is a comedian that you might know from The Daily Show. You may know him from what was that My Big Asian Wedding nonsense thing? Yeah, that was Crazy Rich Asians. That was dope. He did a stand-up. Now, I enjoyed the material. I enjoyed the beginning, middle, and the ending. It wasn't one full story. It's a bunch of little stories that kind of all wrap up at their own time. I especially love his bit about Chinese New Year. But his delivery is what makes this a 3.5 out of 5. He did not know how to let certain jokes go. And there are times in this where you're just kind of like, so what's next? And he's still going on about the last thing. So what's next? It wasn't going anywhere. Even the ending of it seemed like it wouldn't ever actually get to the end, but when it did, it was actually funny. So I will let that one slide. You did a lot of building. But yeah, I would say watch it, especially if you're not Asian, because then it's funnier. But yeah, so there was that. Pretty decent action movie. Riot came out. It's a guy who puts himself in jail to beat up somebody. Chuck Liddell's in it. Who's the big dude from the 80s that was in Expendables? The Russian guy who fought Rocky. Dolph Lundgren. There we go. He's in it. And I've never seen someone so big try to look so fragile. That didn't make any sense. I'm like, dude, if anyone in this prison looks like they can kick someone's butt, though, and he's like, what, 60-something years old now? Dolph Lundgren is just
You
a.
see the way he was hitting? Like, he was too brutal.
Yo, man, he looked awkward and still was looking like it fit. Yeah, so that was cool. That one was a really, I was surprised by how much I liked it, but I actually enjoyed that. We also have Sweetheart, which is the story of a really attractive girl who was too thick for the guy that she was dating, ended up on an island with a shark-like monster. Now, I give this a think about it 5, and not because I think you should watch it, but because I have to just give credit for the fact that they actually showed you the monster. Like, clearly. They were trying to build him up, and he was sneaking around, and a lot of horror movies never get around to showing you the real creature. Like, they never wanted to do the character design. Not to say it was the best character design. It was a pretty weird-looking shark-human thing that looked like it definitely was still made out of something in the 80s. But they showed you the monster. It was ridiculously large. It looked like it could do half the crap that it was doing in the movie. They did a good back and forth with the actors. I love the kill scenes. They actually fight the monster on several different occasions. It made it seem like it was like when you see a monster sometimes, or when the humans fight the monster, sometimes you're like, you couldn't do that. They made the back and forth with the girl by herself made it seem like this is actually something they could hurt. And not in a way that seemed too cheesy or like plot armored, but like she was, she stabbed it with a stick. It bled. It ran like, damn, this joint hurts. I want to recover somewhere. Like it all made sense. As a horror B and C ranked horror movies go, this was a pretty solid film, and the girl was hot throughout, barely wearing pants. So bonus points for that. Like this was a solid movie. If you like bad horror movies, this is definitely for you. And last is Kung Fu Yoga. Now, I like Jackie Chan. I like when Jackie Chan does Chinese movies, but this was so corny even for me. Now, you know if it's corny for me who likes bad, cheesy movies, it's a pretty damn corny movie. So I give this a 2.5 out of 5. I love you, Jackie, but I wasn't loving this, although I will say the Bollywood dance number at the end of this movie was hot. I don't know how I can go through 2 hours of a corny movie and then fall in love with it in a Bollywood dance number. But I will admit, although I'm giving it a 2.5 out of 5, I gotta give it what it deserves. I wasn't mad that I watched the movie because that dance number was hot. It was hot. I don't even like Bollywood stuff like that, but that was hot. So, Jackie Chan was actually dancing, like legit dancing. Another 60-somebody young don't know his goddamn age. He's killing it. So, Yeah, right. So as we head out from the first show, we're gonna play this Bollywood number. It was dope. And I will catch you guys later. Next week I will definitely hit you with my what irks me, because there's a big one going around at NYC we needs to talk about. So I'll catch you guys next time.